Let's talk Spfl Team of the Season. Alright guys, welcome back to another video with me, Kevin Twist, and today we're talking about Scotland's Team of the Season. This is by PFA Scotland, so it's voted by the players. Let's get right into it. In goals, they have Joe Hart, and I think that's correct. I love how Big Joe has managed to find a club again where the last 2 seasons, he's made over 100 appearances already. And I'm glad, he looked lost at one point in football after Pep came in at Man City, and he showed he still got quality, and came at a time of need for Celtic as Barkas, etc. didn't go too well. We then move on to the defence, and it's James Tavernier, and I think it's correct for the right back option. You can maybe say Alistair Johnson, but I don't think he's been in Scotland long enough yet. However, he was there the whole season. I think he probably could have got in over Tavernier, but I think that's correct. 2 for 2, I agree with. Can it be 3 for 3? And yes, because it's Cameron Carter-Vickers, the best defender in Scotland. Hopefully he comes back well from injury, and yeah, it'll be hard to keep him. I imagine Celtic will be fine this summer retaining him, just because I don't think anyone will spend the money Celtic would want for him for an injured defender, so I think that'll be fine for Celtic. We then move on to the next defender, and it's Carl Starfelt, a criminally underrated player, just like Joe Hart, I'd say. Both come for a lot of criticism that's not warranted, in my opinion. I think people forget that Carl Starfelt plays on his weaker side to allow Carter Vickers to be as good as he is. I don't think Carter Vickers would be as good as a left-sided centre-half, whereas I think Starfelt is good enough that he can play on his weaker side. Even though he's so one-footed, he is better there to allow Carter Vickers to play to his maximum. And then we move on to the left back, and I think this one's also correct. It's Greg Taylor, Gregberto Taylor. Arguably could have been in the running for player of the season, but did get injured at one point, and I think that's maybe been the reason why. But I think he's done really well and done a really good season yet again. He's had a few goals to his game, some really good goals as well, and crucial goals. So yeah, Greg Taylor's done well, and he really suits that inverted fullback role very well under Andrew, and hopefully keeps it up. We then move to the midfield, and this is the first one I'm questionable about. Malik Tillman, and no, it's not because he's a Rangers player. I'll clear that right now. I just think there's better candidates. He has got a fair amount of goals, but he's not done it in the big games. That's my issue. Or someone like Mark O'Hara from St Mirren, so a side you wouldn't expect. Mark O'Hara's done it against Celtic. He's done it against Rangers. And I think he's had a better season than Malik Tillman as a whole. He's been more consistent, and I think he's been hard done by not to be in this list. We then move on to the other 2 midfielders. Callum McGregor, I think this one's correct. Solid player, in the running for player of the season that we'll talk about in a little bit. I think, most of them are correct. I've just got the one questionable one which I think was wrong, but bar Malik Tillman, I think it's good so far. We then move on to the next one, and this one's a guarantee. Such an exceptional player. He makes you excited every time he's on the ball. He's so good. Just an exceptional talent, and it'll be hard to keep him in the summer. Rio Hatate, what a player, what a man. Lucky to have him in Scotland, and just such a talent. Then move on to the attackers, and there's 2 here that come from clubs you wouldn't usually expect to be that high in the numbers. We'll start first with Duke. An interesting name, we've seen a lot of jokes with Duck and all that. He's a good player though, as much as his name gets a little bit of a laugh at times. He's got 16 goals in the Premiership this season for Aberdeen, coming from Benfica B. It's another player that's done well since coming over from Benfica B. And no, I'm not about Jair Tavares, he's done terrible. But Jota and Tim have done very well, the 2 mates from the Benfica, the Portuguese giants, is what I was trying to say there. Exceptional talent. A hard one maybe for Aberdeen to keep a player of his calibre, his quality at such a young age. See him linked with Burnley, you see Rangers fans wanting him half the time for the rebuild, you see Celtic fans wanting him for the bench. It's very interesting. I wonder if he'll still be there in the summer, but I hope he stays in Scotland because he is a quality player for the league. And then we move on to the rest of the attack. Who else could it be? You've got the likes of Shanklin, etc. And who are these last 2? It is Kevin Van Veen. And, you know, you maybe wouldn't expect Kevin Van Veen because his club's Motherwell, who have not done well at all this season. They've done a bit better recently, though, to be fair, but, you know, they're not in the top six, they're in the bottom half. But Kevin Van Veen has over 20 goals for Motherwell. Over 20 goals. If you were to look at him, you'd think, oh, he's a big useless target man, terrible touch, we can score a header. For a man of his size, he's really good on the ball. The 31-year-old, talented player. It'll maybe be tough for Motherwell to keep, but I do think he's a really good player and maybe someone who should be playing at a better club. Not to be offensive to Motherwell, but I do think he's shown he's got a, you know, he's at his age, he'll maybe want to try to get a crack at a better team, to be honest. And I think that would be fair. And then the last man is Kyogo Furuhashi. You know, what a man. Scored the goal to win the league at Tynecastle, and then all chipped in, of course. But, you know, Kyogo is the top goal scorer in the league. He's got 30 goals this season for Celtic. Just, what a man. Just, how else can you describe someone of, like, Kyogo? You know, he never stops, and it does work with the Ange model, to be fair. He's got 24 goals in the league, 30 in total. So quick, so intelligent. He never stops making runs. Half the time doesn't even get past. Sometimes he only needs 3 or 4 touches, as he showed at the game against Hearts to win the league. But he always makes the run. He's always available. It's a good trait to have. Definitely. We then move on to the awards. So we'll start with Young Player of the Season. The nominees are Malik Tillman, Leo Labada, Matt O'Reilly and Charlie O'Reilly. Charlie O'Reilly, the only one not in the Premiership. In fact, not in the Championship, not in League 1. He's in League 2 for bottom of League 2. He has more goal contributions than games for bottom of League 2. You know, they're in the relegation playoff against Spartans soon at the time of recording. So, and weirdly, you might think, if you don't really know who he is, with those stats, I'd probably give him it, you know, considering the scenario he's in, where he's at the worst team in the SPFL, you'd have to say, because of the bottom of League 2. And he has more goal contributions in the game, so probably him. But if we're going on standard of league and standard of opponents, then I'd go Matt O'Reilly as the top assister in the top flight of Scottish football. So that's my opinion. If we're going for what they've done, I'd go Charlie O'Reilly. If we're going to take into accountability of the standard they're against, I'd go Matt O'Reilly. So one of the two I'd be happy with. The other two I wouldn't really take into account. We then move on to our last award, Player of the Season for Scotland, Kevin Van Veen, Cal McGregor, Kyogo and Rio Hatate. And I'd go Rio Hatate. However, it's usually strikers that get the award, so I wouldn't be surprised if Kyogo gets it. But I'd go with Rio. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.